This episode of The Energy Show is proudly sponsored by Sunlight and Power, the Bay Area's leading commercial and residential solar contractor. SLP has been designing and installing photovoltaic, battery backup, and solar thermal solutions since 1976. Help fight climate change. Go solar with Sunlight and Power today.
So, you want to save the world with clean energy? Make money doing it? Confused about the economic and technical realities of residential and commercial solar, batteries, heat pumps, EVs? Want the real-world scoop on new energy technologies, not manufacturer hype? Then tune in to the Weekly Energy Show, hosted by Barry Cinnamon. Insights from Barry's 40-plus years in the solar and energy industry will help you understand the future ways we'll generate and consume energy. And now, here's Barry.
Welcome to this week's Energy Show. Now, today we're continuing our discussions with SolarEdge. This is segment 2, and we're going to be talking about more commercial and installer issues. Now, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of SolarEdge, both for residential and commercial installations. And regarding commercial, we've got about a dozen commercial projects here in Silicon Valley that are using the SolarEdge system on a variety of different flat roofs. So on this second segment, my special guests are Bertrand Van Weil. He's the North America General Manager for SolarEdge, and John Allman, the Chief Marketing Officer for North America. So let's kind of dive right into SolarEdge's commercial products. Why don't you give us an overview of what you have in terms of voltages, inverters, optimizers, and anything else?
Thank you, Barry, and we're very excited to be here with you for this second edition. So let's dive directly into the topic, but allow me to repeat a few words about SolarEdge technology to start with, because in fact there is no difference between commercial and residential when it comes to the core technology. And this patented technology is really based on our optimizer and what we call the module level MLP optimization. So that is valid for commercial, that is valid for residential. We optimize the harvesting and the energy produced at every single panel level. So same approach, module level, inverter technology, the best in the market there is, and the best architecture from an optimization and harvesting. Also on the angle of safety. No compromise to safety. More than 50% of the Fortune 500 is using SolarEdge technology. And one of the reasons is not only the best harvesting, but is safety. So the fundamental of the architecture is there on this module level optimization. What's new in C&I, or what do we do in commercial? Rooftop, we are by far the market leader on rooftop technology. We are investing manufacturing in North America. Maybe we can talk about that the last broadcast about the IRA and our investment in Texas for inverter technology. Now our investments in Tampa Bay, Florida. We are creating thousands of jobs. We're producing our commercial optimizer and commercial inverter in Tampa Bay, Florida. And that's really key to the IRA and the tax credit and the tax incentive. So we're really ramping up those inverters and optimizer for rooftop solar. But we've also extended our range for more ground mount type of project. There's a lot of investment in community solar, in agri-PV. We are putting a white paper, for instance, with Rutgers University on leading the way in agri-PV. So for that, we have introduced a new product. We call it the TerraMax, and it's a 330 kilowatt inverter, again, coupled with this optimization technology. And this TerraMax is also launched with a tracker technology, an acquisition we did with SolarGeek. And it's a tracking technology which, in our concept of optimize everywhere, we constantly follow the sun and optimize. And we track the harvesting from the energy from the sun together with our TerraMax technology. So that's very good for ground mount, for agri-PV, community solars, and also exploiting new area like uneven terrain, thanks to this tracking technology. So it's very exciting to continue expand not only in our, I would say, dominating place in commercial and rooftop solar, but now going beyond into new growth areas.
That's interesting, because when I think about utility scale solar, I always imagine large flat areas like the desert where every single solar panel is pointing 180 degrees due south, but then they may be switching east and west, and everything's exactly even. But if you've got an undulating terrain, even though everything's tracking optimally to the sun, you're going to get different outputs on each row of trackers. And the optimizers will not.
And not only that, but also the complexity to install those large systems, right, in a very long racking solution. So it's not always possible. As soon as it's too much, or maybe, for example, all the terrain which were used for a certain function which is no longer usable for that, then you can still use it for this type of project. So this is where you put this SolarEdge technology together with TerraMax. And we also, because it's a lightweight systems and much more granular, again, better optimization, but also the balance of system with up to 50% less cost into our balance of systems thanks to this new tracking technology.
Yeah, so an interesting add to this is, so in ground mount for community solars where you're going into all these environments where it's challenging terrain, those optimizers are really helping out. But a lot of people think, going back to this rooftop market, they think that these rooftops are perfectly shade-free and that roofs are flat and they don't have obstacles, when in fact, the reason why optimized inverting technology is so popular is rooftops are so complex, right? It's ladders, it's buildings, it's shadowing, it's dust, it's birds, it's you name it. You know, you've got lots of complexity happening on classic roofs, and that's really why we're so bullish on this commercial market and really helping that to grow.
We're in the middle of a couple of projects right now in downtown San Jose, and it's not like this really big flat roof. You've got HVAC equipment, you've got shading systems around the HVAC, you've got elevator rooms, and they all cast kind of random shadows. Right. And if you were to say, I'm only going to put the solar panels where it's perfectly sunny, you might be losing 30 or 40% of the available space because those are partially shaded areas, and it works great with the optimizers.
100%. People think trees equal shade when in fact anything equals shade.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we talked about optimizers and the benefits and about the large and the small SolarEdge systems. Tell us a little bit about the smaller SolarEdge commercial systems.
So the smaller SolarEdge commercial systems, that's, again, honestly, the bread and butter right now in our commercial solution, going through most of this rooftop. One of the things that I want to mention is we are also expanding with those solutions on the software side, right? We talk about a bit our last session on software ecosystem developing. So SolarEdge have invested in companies again, in Hark and Ivy. One is for the multifamily, a big growth segment area, and do kind of the help on invoicing and billing when you have shared assets. And the other one with the Hark systems and the Vivo is for the EV charging solution and going towards fleet and fleet management, and that's big growth expansion. So right now we are bringing this together into a whole software suite and software ecosystem. We call it SolarEdge One, and we are in the middle of launching SolarEdge One, and we'll go big in ARI Plus coming next month on this solution.
So I hope SolarEdge One kind of does the rooftop optimizer, maximizing energy harvest. It does the EV charging, and it'll also help customers with managing their demand charges, especially with EV charging. And then I'm going to use the B word, the batteries. And I'm really looking forward to what SolarEdge is going to have in terms of batteries that work with the three-phase systems.
So on the battery, right now we are really, again, continue to develop the ecosystem, and we are making sure that we are the advisory and the consultant to these big Fortune 500 companies on the optimal solution to build. But we'll come later on into the future to come where we come to the SolarEdge ecosystem for battery. So I will not go into more detail for today.
Yeah. No, that's something that really is going to make a lot of sense here in California now that net metering is over, and it's so important for companies to be able to store their own energy like they can for homes.
Yeah, we see a lot of attachment rate and attachment design with battery as well in commercial. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Now let's dive into one of the biggest rooftop solar code changes that I've seen in the last dozen years or so. It's called UL 3741, which no longer requires array rapid shutdown. So tell me about that. What are the pluses and minuses, and what is SolarEdge planning to do to really maximize customer benefits in spite of UL 3741?
Look, we really think, again, it's a step back. And why making that step back? We've been fighting for safety. We've been positioning ourselves for safety all the way. We want to have 1 volt on the roof with this module level technology. We want to make sure we protect the firefighter and the occupant of the building. But even without thinking about the occupant, the safety for this big commercial organization means no incidents and protect the assets. So the people, but also the buildings and their operation. They can't afford to have a roof which have an issue and lose that productivity for quite some times. Sometimes a day, it could be a week, it It could be a month, it could be a year. So especially when you got the insurance in the middle of it, right? So it's very important for us and for our customers to do safety first. And there is no compromise when it comes to safety. There is no compromise when it comes to safety for our customers. So we believe, honestly, it's a step back. But nonetheless, our customers still prefer our SolarEdge technology with or without new legislation because they know what's important for them.
Yeah, we're doing just a lot of work here. We all know that 5 years ago, there were some pretty big incidents. And for our industry, for players, for those major big box players out there who were impacted by that, it really put us back. And we feel like at this point, some people are not really acting in the spirit of the intention of what UL 3741 was originally intended to do. So there's a lot of talk working with regulators to try to how we inspect systems, different sort of what should happen to the regulation. People are working with them very closely to really look at this and try to say, where do we want to go in the future? And perhaps don't we really need to go back to the intention of what UL 3741 was originally casted for? So there's a lot of, and it's not just coming from the certain manufacturers, it's coming from safety officials, first responders who are getting involved in this issue because they want the industry to live in the spirit of how this was originally casted.
Yeah. And cheaper is not always better, and cheaper is definitely not safer. And so
yeah,
I'm a big fan of continuing to just make sure things are safe on the roof.
Great.
All right, let's talk a little bit about policy. How is SolarEdge engaging in U.S. energy policies, perhaps with the Solar Energy Industries Association, and with state-level policies all around this country, including organizations like the California Solar and Storage Association?
Yeah, so we are absolutely engaged at all fronts. We always invest in government policies and making sure we, together with our partners and sometimes competitors, make sure that we evolve the industry for the constituents again, either in residential side or the commercial side. So I'm a bit new to solar, but I recently joined the SIA board. We've been very active. We celebrated actually 50 years of SIA board in DC in June. It's a big event for the industry, and it's very important to be at the forefront and influencing this legislature. We are also very active in California here, being on the board that you just mentioned, the CALSA board. And we continue work with the Barry of this world and our partners to develop, again, at federal level and at state level, our policies and shape the agendas. One of the biggest win, I would say, or one of the very important win we've been doing right now is, of course, the IRA, right? So the IRA is a big win for North America. It's a big win for solar. And we work very actively through the SIA board, for instance, to support where we believe we need to evolve. And for instance, we talk about architecture and safety, right? It's one of the elements. It could be tax credit and tax benefit, and how do we make sure that it's a fair and a most proactive way for the constituents.
Yeah, good.
Truly, when you think of government policy, obviously people have a lot of opinions about government and their role in our world. But the IRA for us is a great example of government policy working and pushing and making change, whether it's manufacturing here or putting solar on the map. So we really try to be supportive of our policymakers for what they did in this and now getting it out there, implemented. Policy is one thing, but causing change. So we're starting to see the IRA taking hold. It's translating from a notebook to real on-the-street effect. So we like where this is headed, and we want to there are times where we need to take a step back and say, wow, this is government at its best and making change. So good for them on this piece.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting talking about the IRA. How does that map into SolarEdge's commercial product manufacturing locations, and to what industry segments does that combination of domestic manufacturing and the IRA really help?
Oh, it's a fantastic question, and we are all over that topic, absolutely. SolarEdge have invested about 1,000 jobs today and will double the number of jobs by the end of the year. We have a factory already in Austin where we produce, for now, residential inverter technology, but have scaled also now another factory in Tampa Bay, Florida, of which we are building those commercial inverter technology together with this optimizer or module level technology. So in Tampa Bay, Florida. So that's a big expansion. That's really enabled by IRA. That's what we call reshoring jobs and creating jobs for Americas. So that's one hand. That's a benefit as a producer, to recreate jobs and competencies in the US for the great industry and in our case, renewable and solar industry. That's one hand of the equation. On the other hand of the equation, with the IRA, all those tax benefits and tax credits we talked about, right? So as a commercial organization, when you take products which are domestic content, which our product will be in commercial side by early 2025, you get an advantage of 10% or sometimes more of tax credit. If you have also a community solar, we talked about the community solution earlier, you get additional 10%. If you use energy community, you get an additional 10%. So you compound this opportunity with this domestic content technology that SolarEdge has to offer and making the ROI of this project and enabling solar in a very large scale. So I think, like I say, John said it, right? We are very thankful for the IRA and the opportunity to develop solar for all.
Yeah. We had manufacturing facilities all over the world, right? If you look into a crystal ball and things are going great, we're getting amazing quality out of these operations. We really like what we're seeing in Texas and Florida. Love it. But you look in the crystal ball down, 2 years and it's coming now, we're actually going to be taking product made here in North America and shipping it around the world. Okay, so that's not only is that great for us in America because our supply chain is very secure, we're a lot closer to getting product out to our installers, but also we're going to be providing the world with product. And we love, as an American, we love to talk about that. We're really bullish on commercial and we love the facilities we have here.
That's good. That's good. All right. Now let's get into some complicated TLAs or three-letter acronyms. What do you guys think about virtual power plants, VPPs, or vehicle to grid or even vehicle to home technologies? How is SolarEdge participating in some of those beneficial deployments of solar and storage?
So we talk in the introduction of the whole new SolarEdge architecture and a lot of the hardware, if I may call it like this. But those days we live also in a whole world of software. I talk about SolarEdge 1, right? So those assets are becoming very distributed. And you need to share signals and demands between those different set of assets. Being your car being an asset, being a battery being an asset, or being maybe the battery of your neighbor being an asset, and maybe another place being an asset. So you really have those distributed resources. And software and IoT architecture now is enabling really the optimization and the usage of those assets for the best ROI in the best time of the day. We call it optimize everywhere, anytime, right? So this, I think, the trends, right, that you are seeing, right? VPP, we enrolled 10,000 battery in VPP program the last quarters. So we have a very large VPP player now. And there are VPP rebates, utility rebate for using your battery in your house in certain peak demand few times in the year, right? It's not that you're going to tap into your battery every single day, but just to make sure that we don't maybe need another big power plant or a big, large asset, and we can use those distributed assets. You talk about vehicle to grid. This is starting. We know about the F-150, for instance, right? More OEMs are looking in that direction of vehicle to grid. And with our DC coupled architecture in the home, it's a perfect fit, right? And then again, an optimization of the asset. Use the battery that you have together with your solar system when your car is not there, but can you use your car as well as a battery solution and maybe a backup or a resident solution? And we know the battery of a car is huge, and sometimes you have this long shortage. So really there is this opportunity. And now we've been optimizing within the solar world. We've been optimizing within the home world. We've been optimizing from the car world. And we've been optimizing from within the building where I come from historically in terms of professional careers. But with that software and those distributed approach and IoT architecture, you really start to see convergence. Now, am I really futurist? Am I talking 5 years down the line? Maybe. But the technology is progressing very, very fast. And you are going to really start to see that interesting, let's say, convergence of options. So I think this is what vehicle to grid will enable, and optimizing the time of use of the battery in the car, the time of use in the battery in your home, and the time of use in your office, right? You want to charge your car when there is maximum sun, when the electricity is the cheapest. That's during the day. That's when you go to the office. Usually you're not at home at that time. Charging the car at night in the home is pretty not the best way to do, because that's where you don't have solar. And that's also when your electricity bill is the most expensive and the less green. So there is a better optimization to do, again, between the home, the car, and the commercial environment.
2 years ago, these VPP programs for us, the volumes we saw were, I would call them more trial, right? Small. Okay, today, we love the numbers that we're seeing. We would love to put as many peaker plants offline as we possibly can. We see that as a good thing, but so today, the volumes that are coming out of these different programs are real, and we like what we're seeing, and we hope we do more and more of it all the time.
And this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, just being in the solar industry for so long. So the battery technology, the inverter technology, software, EV charging technologies are changing much faster than the glacially paced utility regulations. Those things don't budge. The utility business model has been here for over 100 years. So, Bertrand, when you're talking about this, I like using new technology to kind of short circuit or avoid that utility monopoly regulation, just as you pointed out, where you can charge up your car during the day at work with cheap solar, deploying a lot of solar panels, deploying a lot of inverters and optimizers on commercial buildings, parking lots, schools, government buildings, everywhere you can. And people going to work plug in, they charge up. And then when they drive their vehicle home, they can plug into their home solar and battery system and then power their house at night. And it's magic. It's the cheapest way to do it. And by doing it that way, you're able to kind of get around some of those utility restrictions on the grid. And it's, in my view, 5 years from now or so, it's going to be a huge market.
Yeah, I think we are very, very excited about the evolution around those multifaceted really approach and transformation around the energy sector.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Let's talk about, I'd like to take out our magic wand. We talked about this in the first segment, but if you could wave around your magic wand for the California installers, Hawaii installers, and future other state installers as net metering is constrained, how can SolarEdge help existing net metering customers expand their systems when they have more demand, when they have an EV? What kind of technology does SolarEdge have to avoid the net metering restrictions? How can they expand their systems?
So net metering, the expansion of system with SolarEdge will contain two forms, right? First, for net metering is to offsetting this issue with pricing and time of use. So the first thing to do is probably add a battery, right? So that's what you do. You add battery. You add software. You want to optimize you want to forecast what's going to be your demand, the price for that demand, and optimize your signals accordingly, right? So software and the world of AI is coming into the picture here, right? So the expansion, software, time of use, dynamic pricing is really what SolarEdge is of. We have a suite of software called SolarEdge One. That's what we're introducing for this continuous optimization of this optimizer everywhere. And of course, the battery where you can really, again, offset from this big tariff or store when it's very cheap or when you do maximum production rather than being penalized by the utility by giving back your electricity to the grid. So there are really a solution out there. And yes, NEP3 has not done very good for the solar industry in California, but is really enabling the world to see what we can do with battery. And a lot of other ones are following, this type of energy independence opportunities enabled by battery and software.
John, can you talk a little bit about the power control system, the bullet down here, where if you add a new inverter, we're actually piloting this, add a new inverter, add more solar panels, and using SolarEdge's power control system, you can expand your system pretty significantly without losing the net metering benefits.
Yeah. A lot of homeowners will go back to their installer and they'll say, I've bought an EV. I've got some other sort of big load coming on, and I wish I only had more solar, and they'll look over and they'll have, for example, a whole nother rooftop that they could expand. But they don't want to lose their NEM 2.0. Depending on the system, in many cases, what we're able to do is come in and upgrade the system, and with our oversizing, be able to take on that additional PV, add another few panels or a whole section without folks having to lose their NEM 2.0. And that's a very powerful proposition because, as we all know, we like to keep the NEM dollars flowing. So that's been very good for us. Every situation, it depends. So people need to come to us. They need to go to their installer and talk this through. But in many times, we're able to upgrade a system, add a battery, add panels without impacting that NEM 2.0. That's a very unique benefit of the SolarEdge optimized inverter.
Yeah, a really good combination. I don't think every single customer that we've had that says, I have an existing system, I want to add a battery. Right. Piece of cake, we can add a battery under net metering without losing that. But then they always want to add more solar panels. They have an EV. They didn't put solar panels on the north roof before because it didn't make economic sense, but now they want to do it. Right. And my neighbor across the street's doing that. Puts a new inverter in, uses a SolarEdge power control system, and now he's got another 3.6 kilowatts of solar power for his EV. Right. Really makes sense. All right. Well, besides those things, what are some of the other new things that are on the drawing board at SolarEdge on the commercial, utility, geeky side of things?
I think I touched upon that, but that's very new for us and new for the solar industry, right? It's the ground mount, it's the TerraMax combined with our tracking technologies, which we call SolarGeek. That's a lot of a new area, new opportunities for segments around agri-PV and community solar. There is a lot of investment, again, coming from the government, with, for example, $7 billion funding coming from Solar for All, enabling maybe a lot of low, medium income housing and shared housing, multifamily housing. There are all lots of growing segments, and we have unique technology to tap into that. So that's, I would say, a big growth vector for the years to come, for this year and the years to come for SolarEdge and again, the solar industry as a whole. And I think software is really is going to be the name of the game moving forward, and all the optimization you can do around software. And that's why we're introducing this SolarEdge one for CNI, and more to come during ARI Plus upcoming.
Yeah. That's not to say that the hardware isn't moving forward. The batteries, everything's getting more reliable. We love the reliability that's coming out of this, the American manufacturing. We love what we're seeing there. And there will be gains in the hardware. However, systems like SolarEdge 1 that are integrating, bringing all these different technologies together, whether it's people using EVs through cars, the HVAC systems, bringing that all together, making it seamless, integrating it. It's using systems like SolarEdge 1 and optimizing energy management. That's where we see huge, huge gains, and we're really going after that. And how to bring those ecosystems together to make it easy for the commercial providers.
Yes, as concluding words, we talk a lot for SolarEdge. Our tagline is kind of optimize everywhere. And I would say also anytime, right? This whole idea of optimization. And we really keep that front and center. So economical benefits in terms of optimization, right? From balance of systems. I talk about TerraMax enabling 50% less cost into your balance of system. Optimizing from the harvesting with our module technology, our inverter technology, with our DC couple architecture. That's sometimes up to 10% more energy harvesting. That's thousands of dollars for homeowner through the life of the systems. We talk about the safety being in everything we do, safety for the fireman, safety for the occupants of the building, safety of and protection of your assets, right? So this really optimized safety with no compromise is very the heart and the soul of SolarEdge technology. So really optimize everywhere, I think it's what I would like to conclude with. And I think we believe we were into something in the past, and that's going to drive the future and the direction of the company to move forward.
And to me, that adds up to an optimized podcast. And thanks for joining us, Bertrand and John. You did a great job. Really enjoyed the discussions about SolarEdge. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. If you missed any of today's show, you can always go to the Energy Show website at energyshow.biz and listen to the podcasts.
This episode of The Energy Show was proudly sponsored by Sunlight and Power, the Bay Area's leading commercial and residential solar contractor. SLP has been designing and installing photovoltaic, battery backup, and solar thermal solutions since 1976. Help fight climate change. Go solar with Sunlight and Power today.